Hello, and you're listening to FPcast, the podcast Fruitless Pursuits, where we bullshit about the week in pop culture. I'm Luke.
And I'm Jacinta.
And this week we're talking about...
Movies, television, collectibles, video games, comics, books, board games, and more.
Pedophiles.
Rooms.
Yeah, the two movies we're talking about this week are fairly heavy themes, safe to say.
They are pretty heavy going. These are we give a lot of kudos to big, broad genre films like Age of Ultron, which I love, and I'm going to watch a billion more times than something like Room. But today we're talking about the real meat. Not just the potatoes, not just the Jeremy Renners and the Werthos and the Edgos, but the real meat, the films that are the real deal that reflect the human experience and really have something to say.
Yeah,
we're talking about some impactful, meaningful, poignant films.
The movies that all the white men that vote for the Oscars have a good old chew on. They pop their false teeth in, they have a chew over these movies, and they tell us which ones are better than the others.
Absolutely. And if we were going into Oscars and being very honest about, like, if we were going to be about the best filmmaking, we know that as much as I love Force Awakens is my favourite movie maybe of all time at the moment. I've seen it 6 times in the cinema and I love it every time. But we know if we're talking about the best films, best made films... It's things like The Revenant, and it's things like Room, which we're going to talk about later today.
Yep.
So I think we've been a little bit cold on some of the Oscar noms recently.
Yeah, there's not been any that I've watched so far that I've, loved.
But I think today maybe we'll turn that around.
Yep.
Now, we're here to talk about pop culture news. That's what we do. We do pop culture news and reviews. But last week we talked about how we recognise that we're reaching a very different niche. Because if you wanted that hive mind internet response to movies and things...
Where everybody thinks everything sucks all the time.
And the nerd reactions,
Yeah.
Transformer sucks, Ninja Turtle sucks.
Michael Bay is the devil.
Batman v Superman sucks, but Civil War is awesome. And, we tend to give everything a pretty fair shot and wait till we see it. I hope that we are more of a sort of grounded, measured adult take on things. I don't think, necessarily... Obviously, any opinion is an opinion, and people are going to be divided on that. But I think at least we're sincere.
Yeah, and we're willing to give the other side the benefit of the doubt. In every circumstance.
Do believe that the conclusions we reach are very personal, regardless of if they're against the flow. Yeah,
and that's the real difference, isn't it? It's not saying this looks shit and then being definitive and not giving any reasons why. It's like, I feel that this doesn't look very good because of my personal experiences, and this is why I feel that.
Yep, and I think everyone's entitled to their own opinion. If you don't like something, you don't like it, whatever. But if you're entering the debate, if you're entering the arena, if you're going to put on the mask and pick up the trident and the net and be a gladiator, then you got to back it up.
Yes.
And I do feel that even if you disagree with our opinions a lot, we back them up. We discuss how we feel about things. Now, last episode, I talked about how I was feeling self-conscious because I'd met some new people who I thought were really cool, and I was talking about how if someone who had met you or I at a place and took a liking to us, and then they heard this, would they get it? Would they think, okay, I like this person, but do I give a shit about fabled director Mick G directing a Masters of the Universe movie? Or, are they into stuff that I just don't give a shit about? And the conclusion that I drew, not facetiously at all, was that we are actually incredibly charming and engaging. And
I mean, we're good friends. We've been friends for a very long time.
We have,
and, we've got a good kind of banter.
Yeah.
I think that's most of what this is.
And even
really.
when we talked about, for example, we talked about Batman v Superman last week and about the DC reveals, we didn't bitch about Wonder Woman's costume or talk about anything like that. We actually used that as a springboard to talk about the culture and to talk about using Kevin Smith as your spokesman and all those sorts of things. Like we actually... So what I'm saying is that personal side is just as important, I think, as the news and reviews that we're talking about.
Yeah. I mean, you're getting that same news and reviews from everywhere on the internet. It's, it's your choice as to who you listen to or read to deliver that information.
And we assume that we have a pretty casual audience, that are a pretty grown-up, sophisticated audience that don't obsessively look at all these sites. So, occasionally we are telling them something new. And also, we're not getting any scoops or exclusives from anywhere. We're reading the news just as you could. So if you're listening, it's because you're hearing us interpret things and because there's a personal aspect. And I bring this all up because I want to lead the show with something that's very personal, that has nothing to do with pop culture. But I feel like, one, it's almost a responsibility to talk about it because of the current state that I'm in, and you're about to listen, commit your own time to this show. I have just drunk a bottle of wine. It's Saturday night when we're doing this, which is very rare that we do this on a Saturday night. We normally do it on a Saturday morning. I am a simple man of simple means who I don't live with my family. They're on the other side of the country. They have been since I was about 18, pretty much. And the one consistent thing in my life for the last 17, 18 years has been my cat, Franklin. And it seems silly to talk about a cat straight up when we're talking about big things like Star Wars and everything. But
no, we've spoken about Franklin a lot on the
Franklin
podcast.
has been he's been an unofficial sidekick. I think we announced that he was the CEO of Fruitless Pursuits at one point. Certainly on the Book Was Better podcast, he's made some cameos. If I ever started to yell and rant and sound like I was distressed,
he would run in
and check that I was okay. He is a very, very beautiful cat. Now, look, don't let me just rant as well.
No.
Like, jump in at any point. I feel like I've lived a very, very lucky life. Like, I feel that life gives me things a lot.
Yes, it does.
And it gives me a lot more things than it takes away. Like, I think life has always given me things. I'm 39 years old. I just drank a bottle of wine, as I said.
Yes.
I'm 39 years old. I look like I'm about 14. Everything's been really good. I have a job that I love. I'm surrounded by a lot of wonderful people. I'm in a very good position. I really enjoy all this. So I'm very sheltered. I think that there are a huge amount of people out there that have dealt with a massive amount of loss. And my situation would pale in comparison. That said, Franklin Cat has been around for about 17 years. I love him to death. He's the most amazing cat ever. A complete indoor cat, very, very affectionate and loyal. He's a big, dopey, clumsy lump. Who just would always... and very tolerant. I mean, you could do anything to him. I could pick him up, turn him upside down, throw him over my shoulder, carry him like a baby, whatever. And he just loved it. And
he mildly tolerated me.
Yeah, well, your position is kind of unique in that situation.
And scowl at me, though I did treat him in a medical sense. I used to work at a vet clinic, and he used to come in as a patient sometimes, and so he was not a fan of me after that.
He took a swipe at you, which is so rare for Frank. And I'm an optimist. I'm the last person that says, we got to go to the vet. I think, if everything's gone to shit. But yesterday morning, I knew that something was it was not right. He hadn't been himself for a couple of days. He hadn't eaten. He was getting very skinny, and he was laying like an obstacle in the corridor when I went to the bathroom. And normally he wants to drink out of the shower because he's very upper class like that. And I stroked him with my foot. I'm like a monkey in that regard. I have very prehensile feet. And he let out this very strange sound, and I just knew things weren't right. So I gave him a hug, picked him up, put him on his feet, and he sort of tottered around for a bit and then fell over, and you sort of realised, oh, he's very weak. And Suzanne, who has been around Frank for the last 11 years, loves him to death. I think he liked her a lot more than he liked me in those last bits. We knew we had to take him to the vet. And needless to say, things weren't good. It turned out that very old, he's blind, he's in pain, he's very dehydrated, he would have had to go into hospital. We're looking at kidney failure, all these possible things. And it was like, we can kind of prolong it, or do we just do this? So it was a very difficult situation. Now, I am a incredible baby about anything medical. I just can't stand it. And this is something where you would be an expert because you've worked in this line, and I wasn't. I thought you sort of make the decision and they take care of it, and they're like, so you want to be there? And Suzanne was like, yeah, I want to be there. And I was like, no, absolutely not. I'm going to go away. But when they brought him out and they put the thing in him and they were ready to inject him, I was like, Suzanne was there and I was sitting in the corner, and I'm wearing sunglasses. I was ready to go for a day at work, and I didn't end up going to work. Wearing sunglasses and crying a lot. And ended up sticking with him. And I'm so glad I did because it was very quick.
Yeah.
And I have rubbed that grotesque belly a million billion times, and I got to do that right until the end. So that was really good.
Yeah.
So
we always encourage owners to stay.
Yeah.
Because that's not a regret that you want to have.
No, and I think my imagination would have made it worse, and it was actually very peaceful. I had my hands on him the whole time, and he didn't. He never faltered.
Yeah.
It was very, very peaceful.
Yeah.
And I just want to say, like, he is a damn fine cat. He was an awesome, awesome dude. It's been very weird today to not be around him.
The worst thing that you notice in the first couple of weeks is how quiet the house is. It's probably been 2.5 years since I put my old dog Rusty to sleep, and I couldn't. The first couple of weeks, you're so used to coming home, they're there waiting for you, and just coming home to an empty house is the worst thing.
I want to be a bit philosophical because I certainly do not believe in an intelligently designed world, certainly not in the way that fundamentalists and everything believe. Like, I don't believe in Jesus and God and all that sort of stuff. But I do think there's a lot of questions that we don't know. And I think when you look at the world, everything seems to be designed in a pretty amazing way. I think the Matrix is probably more likely. I keep thinking that. I think, like, I grew up at a time when I was playing Pong on the Intellivision. Mm-hmm. And I feel like we're going to get to, like, go through all these stages. There's going to be virtual reality. We're eventually going to be hooked into our brain. Everything's become so real that it feels like life.
Yeah.
And then they're going to say, do you want to play the life game? And I'm going to say, sure.
Yeah. And then in reality, we'll just be sitting in a chair with, like, a catheter.
No, I feel like, And the first couple of levels of the life game, we'll be playing Pong on the television, and then it will all build up again, and it'll just be this endless cycle. But you know what I mean? But I just think, like, pets are just this wonderful, because when you lose a pet, you're suddenly aware of pets. I'm aware of people walking around with their pets. I'm aware of greeting cards with cats and stuff on them.
Mate, I worked in a vet clinic. You have no idea how difficult it was for the first euthanasia I had to assist with after my pet died. Like, still now, if Jack Russell's come in for euthanasia, I lose it.
And you suddenly...
And 2.5 years later.
And you're suddenly like, why are you attached to these animals? You're going to lose them soon enough. Like, what's the point? But then you realise that design-wise, it is such... The fact that pets only live a certain degree... And I certainly have been thinking about mortality and all those kinds of things and sort of coping with loss. You realise it's such a great training mission for bigger losses and all that. Like, it's just perfectly set up. It's like, here's this thing that we're going to do, which is hard, but even kids will get it. And then you'll start to get your mind in a place where you can deal with bigger loss.
Yeah, I actually lost multiple family members before any of their pets died, so I was like, well, getting the big ones out of the way.
I lost my grandmother and I lost Franklin. I mean, like I said, I'm very lucky. Life has been very kind to me, and that's the sort of two big ones. And I think I cried as much both times.
Yeah.
But
I think I cried more over my dogs and my granddad. Even though I was very close to my granddad, it was just, like your pets are your dependent, so it's almost like you're losing a child.
It's unconditional.
In a way, yeah.
But all that said, like, that's what happened. Everything's fine. I've had some wine tonight. I poured one on the curb for my shorty. And what I wanted to say is, because I know this will apply to some of the people that are listening at the moment, I was really blown away by the response on places like Facebook, and also the personal messages I received and texts I received and things like that. I never would have expected that. My Facebook, I mean, look, I've got nearly 600 friends on there, and we know that's all bullshit. And I guess 90% of the time I'm using it to promote the podcast and things like that. And I've assumed that a lot of people that I haven't heard of from over the years do not follow me as a feed, probably because they've been irritated with my advertising, etc. But it's kind of proved that there were a lot of people that were sticking around. And it was like 80, I think there was like 80 likes and about 40 comments, which is huge for me. And I know there are people that can get that for eating at a restaurant. But it was really great. Like, there were models that had come here and done shoots with me who had met Frank and knew Frank and really enjoyed Frank's company. Some who had even shot with Frank. The messages that people sent me were very sincere and very nice, and it's just one of those things where you realise that there are people you haven't had contact with for years and years and years, but like, fuck, the girl that I had a crush on in high school, who was way out of my league, who I've not had any, like, commented. It was really sweet. And even you, dude, like, you came and brought me a gift tonight to cheer me up. You brought me in Force Awakens Admiral Akbar pop vinyl.
Well, it was the one you'd been looking for weeks and
he's adorable, and I did pretty good today. Like, I wasn't that upset, but when I knew that that's what you'd done, that was the testing time. So I really appreciate that, and I think it's just one of those things where you realise how awesome everybody is. Like, you guys are all awesome. So
yeah, well, I mean, it's such a universal thing, like, people have pets. Everybody has to go through this, and even though I said that my last time was about 2.5 years ago, it's still raw. You don't forget that. It gets easier, but you never completely recover from it.
Ghost cat floating around the house. So, Franklin, you were a damn fine cat. I love you to bits. We'll never forget you. Irreplaceable. And hopefully we'll name something after you, or there's something important at some point. I'll build a giant statue or something like that.
Out of Lego.
Never forgotten. You were a fine cat. Now, I think the bulk of our show today is about reviews. Yeah?
Yeah.
So we don't have a huge amount of news. It's been a bit of a quiet week after a very busy one the week before. It won't hurt us to have a smaller show for a change.
No. Well, we've almost gone like 20 minutes already, and we haven't even talked about anything.
That's good. That's personal. That's real. I think the biggest news, or at least the most interesting to me, was that confirmation, which we knew was kind of in the works, and we had heard Taika Waititi talk about this in person.
Yeah.
What We Do in the Shadows is a film that, if you're in Australia, I think you knew about. If you're in America, I think you've only heard about it recently.
I think it came out last year in the US, came out the year before for us.
Yeah, because I did see it in some top 10s for the US.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen What We Do in the Shadows, the New Zealand mockumentary starring Jermaine Clement and Taika Waititi and some other dudes, then highly, highly recommend it. Definitely one of the funniest movies of the last couple of years. It's fantastic, and some of the stars of that film in a smaller capacity were the werewolf characters led by Rhys Darby?
Yes, yeah, from Flight of the Conchords as well.
Yeah, and as we suspected, a sequel has been announced for What We Do in the Shadows, which is focused on the werewolves. It was originally going to be called What We Do in the Moonlight, but has now been given the title Where wolves.
Yeah, like we are wolves.
We are wolves.
We are wolves.
So that's kind of cool.
That's quite cute and funny. I like that.
Definitely something to be excited about if
Yeah.
it's anything near the quality of the last one. And Taika is the guy who's doing Thor 3.
He's a busy man.
Which we know is a road trip sort of story across time and space with Thor and Hulk, which sounds brilliant. And he's also got a new film coming out, which is another, based on a novel, I think.
Yeah, it's about a little...
called The Hunt for the Wilder Children or something
Wilder
like
People or something. Yeah, it's about a little kid in New Zealand, which I think is quite cute because it's like, this kid's a bad egg. And I just love it. I love the use of egg in his movies. Like, it's so funny when it's said by Kiwis. But yeah, the teaser trailer has come out. It doesn't show you a lot. It just kind of gives you an idea of this kid's sort of personality, and he's, charming enough that I'm sure it'll be quite a fun trip no matter what it's actually about.
I think it's playing at festivals at the moment. It is based on a novel, so it may not go the full Taika. Mm-hmm. But for me, he's got a pretty amazing track record.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I would give anything that he's doing a go.
Yep.
He's a very sharp, funny guy, and also puts a lot of heart into his films.
Yeah, I'm so... I really didn't like Thor 2 and Thor 1 was fine, but I'm really looking forward to Thor 3, and it's all because of him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think adding Ruffalo into the mix makes a lot of sense. I think that might give it the charm. I think the problem was before. It was just overuse of Loki. And trying to just play Loki as like... It was like
Crazy
it was
Loki.
playing to Tumblr as opposed to actually thinking about what that character was.
Yeah.
And making him a presence. So, trailer-wise as well, we're pretty thin this week. We saw the trailer for the new Leica film. Now, Leica are the guys that did Paranorman and Box Trolls. I think they're stop-motion animation. They use puppets. I think they're a very interesting group. I think they've been a little bit of hit and miss. I certainly love Paranorman a lot more than Box Trolls. But again, they've earned enough goodwill with me to check out what they're doing. And their new film is called Kubo and the Two Strings, and looks to be a kind of
Asian journey,
mythology, martial arts kind of deal.
Yeah. The in the article that we were reading when they had the character posters, I saw those character designs and went, "Oh no, I don't like those at all." But in the trailer, it looks fantastic.
And he seems to be using a guitar maybe as a weapon. Yeah. And there's origami warriors and things.
Yeah,
it's
there's
very
a lot
beautiful.
of really nice visual stuff. And there's a very, very epic arrangement of While My Guitar Gently Weeps over the trailer, which is unreal. Like, it sounds amazing.
Yeah, so I'm certainly curious about that. I thought that looked really cool. And then not so much a trailer, although it's kind of a faux trailer. The trailer is the whole thing. An official Sundance selection is The Chickening, and I'd heard about this. It's a 5-minute short film, which is kind of a trailer, and it's a remix of Stanley Kubrick's The Shining.
It is the most insane thing I have ever seen in my life.
Yeah, it brings to mind things like Kung Fury.
Yeah.
It's actual footage from The Shining remixed with a lot of CGI changes and enhancements. It's like the George Lucas special edition of The Shining on crack. It is insane. I feel like with it only being 5 minutes, it would be a shame to really spoil anything, but it's on YouTube. You can watch the whole thing. So search for The Chickening and you can thank us later.
Or not, but watch it anyway.
It's pretty fresh. I think it's worth a look. That kid alone, it's what excites me. The take they've done on the kid from The Shining is pretty special.
Pretty funny,
Yeah, it's pretty great. Should we get to the meat and potatoes of this thing? Let's talk reviews. So, Room released this week finally in Australia.
Which Brie Larson won the Golden Globe for?
Yep, it's based on a novel. It's the story of a woman who has been kidnapped by a creepy older man forced to live in her shed. That's the only world that she knows. She's been in there for a few years. He's impregnated her, and she's had a child, and she has grown up with this child in the room. And I don't think it's a spoiler to say that eventually, because it's in the trailer, it's the whole premise, eventually they will get out and have to deal with the world, the outside world.
Yeah.
We've talked a bit about these Oscar nom films, and I just want to say that this one I'm going to highly recommend.
Yeah, I'd say probably of what I've seen so far, this is my favourite in that it was engaging from the first 5 minutes. Straight away.
Yeah, I think it's a brilliant film, beautifully performed. It's an incredible story. I don't know if it's the fact that it came from a novel, that it has more of a thoughtful sensibility. That there's almost a part of me that goes, if this was made 15, 20 years ago, I can imagine some of the tropes that it would have employed and some of the third act twists and turns and stuff.
I mean, but it's based on, surely even the novel would be based on that whole Joseph Fritzl situation, and so people are kind of bringing memories of the coverage of that into this as well. So they're bringing their own feelings.
I have a very specific thought there, and I don't think I want to say it on while we're recording because I don't want to spoil it. But I do think there's a way that the third act could have gone, and I'm very glad that it didn't go that way. Because what it is very much a reflection on that situation, and I think it's a very realistic look at how it would affect everybody involved. And what you realise is that although there are clear good guys and bad guys in this story, you realise that there aren't clear perfect decisions and bad decisions, and that every decision, even if it came from a very good place, has a consequence.
Yeah.
And I think the aftermath of it is portrayed in a very sympathetic but also very realistic and quite unapologetic way. And you see this story through a lot of different eyes, and there are difficulties there which I think you could have just gone up completely uplifting. But the fact that they explored these difficulties in a realistic way and made you understand some of the real challenges of that situation.
Yeah, it feels like no one's really making any decisions that you think are unrealistic.
And you can see it through, like, the way they show it through the perspective of both this woman who has been trapped and the child. You really see a very different impact.
Because she's had a life prior to the room. She's experienced the outside world, and he's never seen the outside world. He doesn't understand anything about it.
I think I had quite a naive expectation of it, that he was going to come out and everything was going to be like, oh my god, a giraffe, can you fucking believe that? Look at this.
Well, he has seen some stuff on TV, so he understands some stuff.
But then there's a point when you realise that a lot of the things that we do as people, like a lot of our societal norms and routines and rituals, must be completely nonsensical to someone who lives outside of that, and must be very confronting and challenging. Like, why do we have to do this? And in some ways, Room is a far better prospect in the sense that you have the undivided attention and love of somebody. So it's quite complicated, and it will certainly elicit an emotional response. I can't think of a film in the last couple of years where I've been that on the edge of my seat and that emotionally invested.
Yeah, there's obviously...
Very affecting.
Yeah, there's a very particular sequence that if you're not invested and tense during that sequence, then perhaps you need to go to the doctor and have yourself checked out. No, it was a lot more... I guess it was a lot more gripping than I actually thought. I did think it was going to be mainly the exploration of, their transition into the outside world, and didn't really think about how they were going to be getting into the outside world, and that was...
it's pretty intense.
It's pretty intense.
Yeah. And when we talk about Oscar films, obviously probably The Remnant is the favourite. It won the Golden Globe, and I think that's a brilliant film and a beautifully crafted film. We talked about, what were we comparing it to? There was something we were talking about in previous weeks where I was saying, if you're going to talk about a period piece, that I think that the authenticity, it was Heart of the Sea.
Okay, yeah.
You know, when you just look at something like Heart of the Sea, there's an authenticity that exists in something like The Remnant, which just trumps that massively. Where,
Heart of the Sea is a little bit more of a mythology kind of
it's a
fantasy
fairy
type
tale.
thing, yeah.
But then at the same time, it's supposed to be historical. But The Remnant has this, like, real historical life is fucking hard. And everything is miserable. And you could die at any second, which feels far more authentic. But then, at the same time, when you bring room into the equation, I feel like, in terms of the human experience, room is the authentic one. Like, it's almost like Revenant is too crafted. That, you know, it's authentic in a kind of real gritty, oh, fuck, everybody's going through hell.
Yeah,
thing.
it's still, it's the human, but it still feels alien, where Room feels like something that could, you know, happen tomorrow.
Yeah.
Sort of thing, yeah.
And I'll be happy if either of them win, because I think they're both really deserving. But in terms of the non-big, beautiful, artistic version, Room is my choice. Room really stuck with me.
Yeah.
And, yeah, look, it's a little hard going, but I definitely recommend, if you're going to go and do an art house, do a, like, non-big blockbuster laser monster movie, then superhero movie, then do Room.
Yeah, it's a quietish couple of weeks, so if you're looking for something to see, then it's at the top of everyone's list, I would think.
And that seems like an easy segue into Spotlight, which is another one of the big ones.
Which it's a fair favourite for the big award, Spotlight.
I recommend it, but certainly if you were going to go and see something in the cinema, I want you to see Room as opposed to Spotlight. I think Spotlight's a very interesting film. This is the one about based on a true story, the group of journalists that discovered the extent of priests molesting children.
Yeah, through the Catholic Church.
And did an expose on it.
Starting in Boston and then kind of working their way out into the rest of America and then the world.
Has an amazing cast. Including Michael Keaton and Mark Ruffalo. And is it Amanda Seyfried in that one?
Amy, no, it's, oh fuck, what's her face from The Notebook?
Oh, that's awful.
Oh, man. Just after everyone's getting so worked up about, you know, women in the media.
I know, it's true, because I've got to admit, like, I thought she was amazing, but
she was very good.
But I totally remember Ruffalo and Michael Keaton and, okay, Vamp, because I'm...
Oh, God, I'm just fucking trying to think. What? It's like...
So she's not going to win the
Rachel
Oscar.
McAdams.
Yes!
Yes!
Yeah,
I got there.
Got it. You beat me. As I googled it.
It was my ovaries going, what the fuck is wrong with you? Sisterhood.
No, and she was good.
She was amazing.
Really good.
Yes.
And I think I saw it first. We didn't see this one together.
Yeah.
And I recommend it to you. And you quite rightly had the response that a lot of people have had about, you know, like it's about child abuse.
Yeah, I was hesitant. I was like, oh, this is a bit heavy going. I don't know if I've got other options.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know if this is going to be my pick. But I did
don't let that put you off, because it's about the issue. My memory of it, there's no scenes of child abuse.
No, there's not.
There's no children in it.
They talk to a lot of survivors, but they don't. Yeah, I mean, they do describe some of the situations, but you're not seeing any of it.
It's a procedural. It's about the journalistic side. And in a way, although it's far more serious, it was almost a spiritual successor to The Big Short, because it's about a group of people that go, hang on, we've just identified something that people should be talking about, but they're not. And then as they get deeper and deeper, they go, holy fuck, like, this is way worse than we even thought about. And why aren't people talking about this?
Yeah.
And, it really follows that journey as they kind of uncover everything. So I think it's an excellent film and definitely worthy of your time if you're into serious films, but I don't know if you necessarily need to see it at the cinema. I think this is a perfect, like, I'm in the mood, pick up the Blu-ray and watch it and have a think.
Yeah, rent it on iTunes and check it out. It is a very solid movie. I think in some ways I probably prefer it to The Big Short. The Big Short, the way the information was presented was obviously very clever and very good, but there was something just a little bit about the way they were dealing with that subject matter, which, you know, they both movies deal with people's lives being ruined.
Yeah.
And The Big Short in some ways seemed a little bit more flippant about that, and some characters
absolutely.
were kind of cheering that on. And then, which that does get referenced at the end of the movie, where Brad Pitt's kind of a bit like, you guys are assholes.
I think they all feel it. Like, they realise I think this happens in both movies. There's this idea of you're uncovering something and you're like a dog with a bone. You need to find out. And but the more and more you expose and the more right you are, there's this very sort of elated kind of feeling of, yes, we've done it, we've exposed it. But then you realise us winning, us achieving this, we are ruining a lot of lives. People, there's going to be a lot of misery because of what we've uncovered. Yeah,
it felt a little bit more like in The Big Short, like they were doing it for themselves, where in Spotlight, perhaps they're doing it for the benefit of the victims to get them justice, sort of. That's what I took away from it.
Yeah.
I mean, they both have amazing casts. The Big Short is much more palatable, I think, even though I found the subject matter a little bit harder to process in The Big Short.
It's complicated.
It's very complicated. Even with those explanations, there were a few things that I was a bit, what? Spotlight is, you know, it's a narrative that we're familiar with over the last 10 years of this being all in the papers, and we sort of understand it a little bit more. And some of the reactions just seemed a bit more, I don't know, authentic. I mean, they're a different class of actor in Spotlight, so I don't know. They definitely share a lot of DNA, but I think it's probably Spotlight's just ahead of Big Short for me.
I'll probably go the other way.
Okay.
I don't think I wouldn't say different class of actor, because I think you've got.
Well, he's a good Christian Bale and
I think you've got a wonderful. It's a different tone.
Yeah,
it's tonally different. It's aiming in a different way. But I think both are really beautifully performed. I think that
Spotlight's a lot more subtle. The performance is a lot more subtle.
Absolutely. And I also think that when you're navigating waters that are as treacherous as those in Spotlight, people like Ruffalo and Keaton and McAdams are quite disarming. They're very comfortable people to take you on that journey.
And the thing, I was thinking for probably about half of that movie that Ruffalo was kind of just being Ruffalo, but then and it wasn't really, you know, I didn't feel like he was particularly stretching, but then I think, you know, that's the point. He's being Ruffalo, you're kind of feeling comfortable with him, and then he kind of explodes a little bit towards the end, and then that's part of the big push there.
I think when you're dealing with something that's as kind of tricky as that you want those little islands of comfort and feeling safe. Yeah. And I think you do feel safe with him because he's determined, but he's also kind of willing to go along, and, you know, he's not an overpowering personality, and he's quite endearing as well. And it's this whole fishing process, isn't it? Like, you don't just want to, like, put the hook in and then, you know, there's this whole teasing out of information as these guys kind of go in and investigate and try and get to what they need to know. And and let's give praise to Stanley Tucci as well in that film.
The Tooch. Like, that was the other thing I was thinking, that you see a lot of Mark Ruffalo movies and he's kind of very Mark Ruffalo-y in everything, and then you look at the Tooch in every single role, and he's so transformative. Like, he's so different in every role, and he doesn't get enough recognition. Tooch is amazing.
He really is. He 100% just gives himself to whatever, and he's this character where you kind of initially go, he's a spiky character, and you're like, am I on his side? Do I like him or whatever? And you realise that this is a tough guy who has a lot of integrity, and he's interesting. He does a good job. So, I'm happy to say both of those this week I would recommend.
Yeah, ticks for both of them, but Room probably over Spotlight.
Yeah, if we got to pick, go Room.
Yeah.
For sure. And Brie Larson, absolutely deserving of the Golden Globe, and I hope she fucking nails the Oscar. And it's a shame that there aren't more opportunities for acting awards for little kids, because is it Jacob Tremblay?
Is it Jacob? It's Tremblay. Jacob or Justin or something like that. Yeah.
Jason, one of those.
Yeah.
He won the Critics' Choice Awards for Young Actor.
Yeah. His speech was rad.
His speech was amazing. He said he was going to put the award next to his Millennium Falcon.
Yeah.
He was very sweet. It kept cutting to the audience going, oh! and like weeping and their hearts exploding. But he did an amazing job. I would say that's probably the best child performance I've ever seen.
Yeah.
So textured, and kudos to that director, because I don't even know, there must have been
how do you get kids to do that,
there have got to be a lot of tricks to do that. Oh, and also, just while we're praising actors, and because we got a little bit of time up our sleeve, I just want to really quick shout out to the bad guy, the kidnapper in that, because that's a movie which makes you absolutely fucking hate that guy. That's an incredibly brave role to take on, because no one is going to have any empathy for you whatsoever. He's just the most wretched of villains, and this is a real guy and probably a real nice guy, and to take that on and to be a part of it and be willing to provide.
Yeah, he's very much Joffreying himself.
Yeah.
Though that said, I couldn't tell you what he looked like. I don't remember what he looks like. I saw him in
something else not that long after. Yeah, just doing a cameo. I can't even remember what it was, but it'll stick with you. So yeah, good films. Fuck.
Yeah,
really good films to recommend this week. And we fucking love blockbuster films. We're so excited about all the comic book stuff that's coming out, everything like that. But in these quiet moments in between, these things get nominated for a reason. There are things that you should definitely check out.
Yeah, so. And I mean, honestly, this week with the new releases, it was Room and Spotlight or Dirty Grandpa.
Yeah, see Room.
We are not fucking going to see Dirty Grandpa.
No, we're probably not going to do that one.
Ever.
And I think we got invited to, but it was
we got an invite to it. I'm like, I don't want to taint myself with that movie. That looks like absolute shit.
Plus, it doesn't help them. It doesn't help us. We're going to come out and say it was shit. We're not the target audience, and it's not going to work. So better off to. But yeah, Luna's got Room. So if you're in Perth, go and check that out there. For sure. And just while we're talking movies and blockbusters and everything, if you're thinking, okay, you guys are getting a little bit upper class with this. On Friday, you and I are very lucky to be seeing. I'm so excited.
You're so excited.
We are seeing an early preview press screening of Deadpool.
Yeah, it's a beer and pizza night.
It's a Friday night. I can't even think when we've had a film.
Oh, never. Whenever they're on Fridays, because they sent out a save the date and it was a Friday, and whenever they have Friday screenings, they're always in the middle of the day and we can't go. And I was so angry. I sent you many angry emails.
Yeah.
And then, it was a Friday night and they're giving us food and beer.
This is a Friday night. It's pizza, it's beer, it's Deadpool, and there is an embargo.
Sweet.
But the embargo expires just before our show goes live.
Woo-hoo!
So Monday next week.
Everything is coming up, Millhouse.
We are going to be reviewing Deadpool. No spoilers, of course, because we know that you're all anticipating it. But we're going to jump on that wagon. Let's talk a little bit of TV. Now, I feel very bad because I was going to watch this before the show and I didn't. So it's all up to you.
Okay.
X-Files.
X-Files. So I was, as a very young little kidlet, completely obsessed with the X-Files. And I started watching it probably when I think it actually started when I was about 8. And I didn't start watching it until I was maybe 10 or 11. And I fully put that down to, I had a copy of TV Hits or Smash Hits or something like that. And it had an X-Files poster in it. And I was kind of young enough that I wasn't sort of understanding the feelings that were happening. And basically I saw a picture of David Duchovny.
Whoa, okay.
And that was my new favourite show of everything. Basically, that's pretty much how it happened. And I was so into the X-Files. Probably not the best thing for a 10-year-old to be watching. It was a bit scary, and I didn't watch it all the way to the end, and I still didn't go back and rewatch it, which I probably should have done before starting the new series. But I think I stopped sometime after the first movie, because as a kid I liked the Freak of the Week stuff with the squeeze and tombs and the crazy conjoined twin fetus thing and all of that sort of stuff. I loved that stuff, but when they went into the government alien conspiracy stuff, it sort of lost me a little bit and I kind of dropped off.
Well, let me just, because I haven't seen it, I don't know your opinion of it, but I have heard very mixed things.
Okay.
I've heard that people were let down and that it was just a whole big conspiracy theory bullshit thing.
Yeah. It is. It's all government, alien, conspiracy, crazy cover-up sort of things, which as an adult I can now appreciate because I'm not 11 anymore.
Yeah. That makes things easier.
Yeah. The first episode, I have seen a lot of people's criticism being that there's just an overload. The first episode is an overload, and it is. There is just so much going on. There's so much to kind of catch up on. I think some of the stuff that they've referenced was stuff that happened towards the end of the season. Like, I didn't know that Mulder and Scully were together. I didn't know they had a kid. Any of that stuff.
They got a kid?
Apparently so.
Is it a ranger?
No. I think
How old is it?
I think they said, because they adopted it out to protect it or something, and it should be 15. There's a few kind of flashbacks.
Fuck.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, so they've had a kid. They're together. They're not together currently. They are in contact regularly, but they are not in a relationship anymore. And they get called back in. On a case, basically, old mate Skinner calls them back in, and they
Skinner.
sort of end up back investigating this conspiracy, which Mulder's starting to realise that perhaps everything that he believed all those years that he was investigating the X-Files maybe had been spoon-fed to him, and it was what he thought he was uncovering, all this mysterious stuff, was actually what people kind of wanted him to think.
Oh.
Yeah, so it is very interesting. The first episode, there's so much going on, but it's only a 6-episode little season, and the thing that I'm thinking is, how the fuck are they going to get through this all and resolve it? Because it's a pretty big hole that they're digging into. But it's very...
Sounds like he dug into a pretty big hole. Scully.
Yeah, I'm very intrigued. I'm really into it. I'm really happy to jump on it. The second episode feels a little bit more, not completely Freak of the Weeky, but there's definitely it kind of zeroes in on more specific areas of this larger conspiracy rather than looking at the thing as a whole. And yeah, I'm loving it. It's funny watching it now, and the budget now compared to 1995 and the things they're able to do. They can have an alien, and that alien can be a CGI alien that's like crawling around and all that sort of stuff, when they wouldn't have been able to have that back in the day. It would have just been like a rubber thing they were doing an autopsy on.
Sock puppet.
Yeah, and they've got like, alien ships that look like, just something out of a movie, and it's really cool to see the difference, but it feels enough like X-Files for me, and Mulder is just clicked straight back into it, you know what I mean? Like, he is Mulder. There was a little bit of because Scully is a doctor now. She assists in surgery, and when you first see her, she's in like surgeon mode, and that was a bit sort of, oh, hang on, that's a bit strange. But by the second episode, they're back in their suits. Mulder shaves off his hobo stubble, and everybody is back in X-Files mode. So it's nice. It's very good.
By the way, I'm getting my hobo stubble back after being a woman.
Yes.
Last week. It's been a week, and it feels good.
Yes.
It feels very good. Just on TV, I want to talk about a show that I'm very much anticipating back, and I should do a shout out to Sarah, who mentioned this on Facebook, which is how I know about it. But recently I caught up on The Celebrity Apprentice, which I just fucking love. Like, Celebrity Apprentice is the best. I think The Apprentice as a concept is really great, I think Donald Trump is always a glorious train wreck to watch, and you see people at their worst. You've got people like Gary Busey and stuff. It's all happening. I love it. It apparently, a huge ratings thing, always made lots of money. But now we've got this problem. Like, you're going to bring it back, but Donald Trump can't do it.
Yeah.
It's his show. He'll obviously make money off it.
Yeah.
But he can't do it because he's the future president of the United States.
Oh, God.
So what do you do? Who do you get to replace him? Have you read this? Do you know who's replacing him?
I have no idea because I have not very much interest, but go ahead.
This might interest you. Arnold Schwarzenegger.
You're fired!
I hope he's going to say, you'll not be back. Yeah.
You're terminated.
No, Schwarzenegger is going to be the new dude. Tyra Banks is going to be one of his advisors. The actual list of celebrities includes, like, Boy George and John Lovitz.
Yeah.
It's going to be fucking amazing.
Okay.
I can't wait. That sounds like Schwarzenegger. I love that. Like, he was governor, and then he was like, okay, movies again, and then every movie was just fucking awful and failed. Like, they were going to do, like, 3 new Terminators, and now it's like, no, we're not going to do any more because it sucked. So he's going to be on Celebrity Apprentice.
You're right.
He's going to be the decision maker. He's going to be up there in the boardroom. He's going to be going like, get your ass to Mars. Blah, blah, blah. I just think it's fantastic. I think he's always entertaining.
Oh, interesting.
And plus it paves the way for Donald Trump to be the most glorious president of the United States.
Absolutely. Yeah, the Australian version of I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here starts tomorrow night, I think. And one of the rumours of the person that's going in, this is going to mean nothing to our American viewers, but it's rumoured that Ben Cousins is going into the jungle, who is an ex-footballer who sort of left the league in disgrace because he was a massive ice head on heaps of drugs. And
then kept going, I'm over it now, and then proving that he wasn't.
And then did a massive documentary about how he fucking pulled the wool over everybody's eyes for about 15 years. Yeah, anyway. So, yeah, there's rumours that he's going into the jungle, which is going to have me watching, I've got to say, because he's got to be off the gear if he's in an African jungle for...
He might have hidden it in a coconut.
Maybe.
He'll just crack the coconut open.
Maybe. He's gone there months in advance and just hid it in a tree.
And he'll be like, welcome to the jungle! We got fun and games!
And other TV stuff, obviously Agent Carter is back. It's season 2. She's out in Hollywood. It's fucking really good. Really, really good.
I've only watched like 2 episodes of Agent Carter ever.
Go for it. There's a lot of been quite a bit of Howard in the first couple of episodes. The costumes are so good. Like, costuming in, just stuff like this is not something that I usually pay that much attention to, but everyone looks so fucking good all the time. It's so great. And also Gallivant is almost done for the season because it only runs for about 4 weeks. And yeah, still very, very good. Vinnie Jones is fucking hilarious. He's got so much more to do. He does sing. He's got a lot more to do this season. Yeah, so highly recommend it, but if you are a fan of Gallivant, you have probably watched it already anyway.
You know what I've been watching?
What?
Here Comes Honey Boo Boo. It's so good. Mm-hmm. Oh, America. Yeah. It's all funny until someone gets hurt. Look, we're pretty much reaching the end. There's one other thing I wanted to talk about just very briefly. We don't talk about video games as much as we used to, only because I've become a far more casual video game player. But lots of little missions, the dressing, playing the same, but they go... It's like a choose. Yeah, it's got a lot of cuts. It's got portions where you're navigating characters. It really gets horror genre, where you're the director. Every choice you make, I feel a linear adventure, something that was second I've aged.
So they're friends. The story is played it. I've only watched going up to some anniversary of some
and Ward from Hero with everybody alive.
I just really loved it.
I've got either. And what about that? Engaging. So Bloodborne. Casual dabble that I might not be able to 10 minutes. So free is probably that game.
Yeah.
Until Dawn, Avengers, or because I know it's going to be into very as I thought it might have been. But with the Franklins passing, I knew I was going to have a quiet weekend. This recording is really the only thing I'm doing this weekend, and I thought, let's get a game. Let's try and do some escapism. Mm-hmm. And I got Until Dawn, which I've heard a lot of really great things about. And I'm probably about halfway through, maybe a little bit further. And it is a wonderful, wonderful game. I think there are certain types of games, certain genres of games, like the first-person shooter, etc., and you can keep changing the dressing, but you find yourself playing the same style of game. I feel like I've played a lot of open-world games recently, where it's quests and lots of little missions. I wanted something that was quite a linear adventure, something that was really gonna just take me on an experience. Mm-hmm. And this thing is like kind of horror genre. It's kind of like a horror film where you're the director. It's
like a choose your own adventure.
It's like a choose your own adventure story, yeah. It's got a lot of cutscenes where you make decisions. It's also got portions where you're navigating one of the 7 characters. And it's on a timer. The characters are all separated. It has a screenplay. Every choice you make changes things. Kind of like Heavy Rain or something like that, but I think a little bit more accomplished. And it's just riveting. It's every second I've just been absolutely engaged.
So the story is basically... I haven't played it. I've only watched you play a little bit, but I do remember it being reviewed on Good Game last year. That their friends are going up to some cabin in the woods on the 1-year anniversary of some murders or something.
Yeah. And
because that's always a good idea.
And all of the characters look like the actors that play them. And very much so.
Very much so.
So Mr. Robot is in there, and Ward from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and Hayden...
Panettiere...
from Heroes.
The cheerleader, yeah.
They're all in there. They all look exactly like themselves. You're probably not going to get through it with everybody alive. I think I've got 3 definite people who are dead so far, and not intentionally either. And I think there will be a bit of replay value because there's a lot of decisions where I made on the fly, and then I'm like, shit, what if I'd done this? Or what about that? But it's very, very engaging. I highly recommend it. The 2 things it has going against it in terms of accessibility is it is a PlayStation 4 exclusive. Mm-hmm. So if you don't have a PlayStation 4, then you're fucked. Also, it's just not one of those games that really dropped in price. I bought a pre-owned copy today because it was a 2-for-1. So I paid a fair bit for it, but then I also got Bloodborne for free as well. And Bloodborne is that game that, as a Dark Souls casual dabbler, I was very interested in, but I knew that I might not be able to get past the first 10 minutes. So getting it for quotation marks free is probably the best way for me to engage with that game.
Yeah, I was surprised you didn't get Lego Avengers.
Yeah, very, very close.
Yeah.
I was actually...
I nearly bought it today too, but I knew that I wasn't going to be playing it this weekend.
It was a 3-way tie between Until Dawn, Avengers, or the new Tomb Raider, which I'm also very excited about because I know it's going to be a game that looks really good. I think because I've played a lot of Lego Dimensions lately, and the Lego games fall into very distinct patterns, that although I love the Avengers, I thought it might have been a little bit of overkill.
I just really loved the humour in the Lego games. They were playing the trailer in the indie games that I went into today, and it was very funny. And I was like, "Oh, maybe I'll just grab it," but I couldn't decide whether to get it for the 3DS or the PlayStation.
And then I nearly bought all of them, but then I thought, well, I can only play so many this weekend, and the price is only going to get less as it goes. So let's play this, and then we'll go back to it. Yeah. So did very much thought about it. The other thing that sort of soured me is I've spoken highly of Lego Dimensions on here, and I do really like it. I got the Ghostbusters expansion last week, which was something I was really looking forward to. And I've got to say I was really underwhelmed by it. It goes through the story of the first movie, but it doesn't have... One of the things I love about Lego Dimensions is all the dialogue that's been recorded and the way that they interact with everybody. It does not have any new dialogue. The dialogue is samples from the film, and they're really low quality. They're quite tinny, and you play as Peter Venkman. Once you've done that mission, you can play as any of the Ghostbusters, but he says the same thing again and again and again and again. So I just found it kind of lackluster. I just wasn't really that engaged with it. So
And it wasn't a really wide release either, was it? We only found it in one shop out of the multiples we went to.
this isn't irrelevant to Australian listeners, but JB Hi-Fi didn't seem to get it in, which I think is either an indication that they don't have any faith in that anymore and that they've lost too much money on it, or maybe an indication that they're not doing as well as we would have thought, because that's kind of what happens with all these retail stores that end up going under as they get less and less of the new stuff and just keep trying to flog the old stuff.
Yeah.
And
Well, yeah, I don't know if I can really see that happening with JB's. They're pretty popular as a store. Or maybe they just had a late shipment. You never know.
yeah, I don't know. But yeah, I have been said a lot about that game, but I was really underwhelmed. I think maybe it's run its course a bit. So that's why I thought today, Until Dawn is something so different. It's unlike anything else that I've got. I really want to play it, and I certainly haven't been disappointed. There's been no sections where you're like, okay, now I have to go through the sort of routine. It's kept me guessing, and
Cool.
I've enjoyed the characters, and everything's good. All right. That was a pretty straightforward show, really, wasn't it?
Yeah.
A vanilla show.
Well,
Can't all be chocolate.
as long as you like chocolate. I mean, we talk about ice cream flavours a lot,
We do.
You can like your own ice cream flavour, it's fine.
But yeah, there we go.
Yeah. So we'll be back a little bit more peppy next week with Deadpool. So don't worry about that. A little bit of a downer this week.
Oh no, it's a celebration.
Yeah.
Celebration of a damn fine cat.
Yes, and some pedophiles and some creeps who keep women in rooms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And some good films.
Yeah.
Some creepy games. Yeah, it is all a bit creepy, but there you go.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for listening. We love you as always. I encourage you to look out for our other shows. On Book Was Better this week, Zach returns as guest host, and we are reading Who Framed Roger Rabbit, which I'm quite excited about. You'll find everything we're doing at fruitlesspursuits.com, links to our Facebook, links to our Patreon, where you can get our Australia Day episode, Where They Were Go-Go.
Yeah.
Which the Americans felt needed subtitles. So look out for that.
Yeah.
And also, I felt like there was something else that I was going to say that was available.
There will be, within the next couple of weeks, we will be expecting there will be another BWB TV. And Kenny, yes, it is a Buffy one, so you are appeased.
Oh, and look out for Fruitless Pursuits on YouTube. Friend of the show, Ian, has taken up our YouTube channel and started putting things on there. Now, he's put some little highlights to try and entice people, like some of the Ray discussion, and we'll be putting full episodes up. If there's anything that you think would be really good to go up there and entice new listeners, then please let us know on our Facebook discussion page, because... we're doing the work anyway. We may as well get it out to as many people as possible.
Yeah.
And then we'll feel like big men and women.
I probably won't feel like a big man.
You don't feel like a big man?
Well, sometimes I feel like a big man.
There we go. Solved. Alrighty.
Alright. We'll see you next week.
Yes. Love you, Frank.